How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. Today we are looking at what the Fed just said. Jerome Powell speaking at Jackson Hole. We're going to take a look at the PCE numbers, taking a look at some good news for a company that a lot of us are invested in, also taking a look at a way to really solve the student loan crisis. So if you don't mind hitting the like button and subscribe button, I appreciate that. While you're down there, there's a link down there to BlockFi. So it still sounds like BlockFi is in talks with FTX about being bought out, or they are still working on that. They did just announce a rate increase for people outside the US. So if you want to check that out, there are links underneath the video. There you can get some free money as well for signing up and starting to deposit. Now, the cryptocurrency market is down just a little bit on the day, down about 1%, not too much movement. There was some movement earlier this morning. We actually went up to about 21.7, but as you can see, we've pretty much just putting in higher lows and higher highs over the last month. So it's been pretty boring with us ranging right between really about 20,000 or so, 21,000 and 25,000 for the majority of the time. Now, we did move up this morning because of the fact that we got the PCE numbers. Basically, the core PCE came in less than expected at 0.1%. or about 4.6% on the year, which was less than the 0.2% and 4.7% on the year that was expected. The July PCE price index actually came in at negative 0.1% on the month, and U.S. income came in lower than expected, about 0.2% instead of 0.6%, and U.S. spending came in at 0.1% compared to that 0.5% expected. So this is one of those scenarios where, again, good news is bad news, bad news is good news. This was pretty much best case scenario for inflation and for stocks because of the fact that we had the inflation come down less than we were expecting, right? It came down more than we were expecting, but it's less than we were expecting on inflation. Also, people aren't spending as much. So if you're worried about the inflation narrative, the fact is people aren't getting raises as much as expected. Their income's not going up and their spending is not going up. They're being very cautious, and that's causing inflation to come down. And obviously, spending and personal income is kind of a lagging or kind of a leading indicator for inflation a bit as well, because obviously if income goes up drastically or spending goes up drastically, people are going to have to increase their prices. So this was all good news, led to a little bit of a pump, and then Jerome Powell spoke. He spoke at Jackson Hole. It was only about 10 minutes, so it was very short, but it wasn't too interesting either. He basically had said that we still see a strong labor market. We're still seeing high inflation, higher than the targeted 2%. We're still going to use our tools to continue to increase rates. We've raised by 75 basis points in the last couple meetings, and we may need to do that in the future, but we're going to have to determine that when the meetings come up, because 1 month is not enough information. 1 month of inflation coming down is not enough to change our policy and what we're trying to do moving forward to a more accommodative policy. So at first the market fell down on this, then it pumped up, now it's down again. So I think everyone's trying to basically just absorb what he said, and honestly it wasn't anything crazy. It was pretty much what they've said in the past, that they're going to continue to monitor. The only thing that I think was a little bit different was that he said that 1 month is not enough information to really make a judgment call, but we pretty much knew that, right? If we saw inflation come down for 1 month, it's not like they're going to start cutting rates or anything like that. I think it's the market trying to determine, is it going to be 55 or 50 basis points or 75 basis points in the September meeting. So we do have that coming up pretty soon. It's less than a month away. September 20th and 21st is the next meeting date. We'll get more of the information on what they're going to do moving forward on that time and what they're going to raise rates by. Obviously, if it comes lower than expected, that's good for the market. We do have inflation numbers here coming in a couple weeks for CPI. So if we see another month of down CPI, less than expected, obviously that's going to be bullish. It's going to lead a lot more people to think that the Fed's not going to raise rates as drastically. And even if they raise more than expected next month, obviously the market will probably fall. But if inflation keeps on coming lower, there's going to be less and less of a reason to be worried, because they're going to start raising rates a little bit less because they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. They can't keep on raising rates as drastically as they have. So I think that's what we really have to look out for. A couple weeks we'll get some more big inflation news, but it's interesting, right? With all the elections coming soon, the political parties are really trying to make sure that they're getting votes. For example, with the recent student loan debt payment, basically of $10,000 and $20,000 to U.S. citizens, depending on obviously income and how they're repaying their debt and stuff like that. That came out recently. However, Dennis Porter, the CEO of Satoshi Action Fund, tweeted an alternative to forgiveness of the $10,000. Basically said that what Biden could do is give some people Bitcoin, lock it in a smart contract for 10 years, and then by the end of that 10 years, it would be worth enough to pay off the student loan. So I think that's a really interesting idea. Obviously, it probably won't be executed just because the government is not super pro crypto, and this is just a little bit too out there for them. But that would be an interesting experiment. I mean, if you think Bitcoin's going to $500,000 in the next 10 years, which I think is very possible, the fact is that is a 20 to 25x from here. If you put in $1,000, most likely that would pay off $20,000 worth of student loan debt in 10 years. So it'd be interesting. Obviously, there'd be a lot of logistics to this, probably too much work, probably will never happen, definitely will never happen, but it is an interesting thing to think about. I wouldn't be surprised if someone does this with some group of people out there for student loans now that it's kind of out there and people are thinking about it, if they set up some kind of fund with some Bitcoin. Now, we also got bullish news for Tesla. Over the last couple of days, we've been getting a lot of bullish news. Elon Musk said Starlink V2 launching this year will transmit direct to mobile phones, eliminating dead zones worldwide. Dave Lee says, will Tesla get this feature too in the future to connect directly to Starlink satellites for emergency calls and texts? And he says yes. So one more reason to have a Tesla. Teslas are already some of the, well, really the safest cars on the road, but also if you have this ability, there are a lot of dead zones around the US. I know I just was in Oregon and there are a lot of dead zones where we couldn't reach anyone. So this would be another great thing to have, just for Tesla, making it even better reason to buy a Tesla in the future for that kind of safety. And we just got news too that California is banning the sale of new gasoline cars by 2035. This obviously is really bullish for Tesla, very bearish for everyone else that's not on the EV train. The fact is California is a massive market as well, so a lot of other markets will start following, I think. And again, no one else can compete with Tesla in electric vehicles. Their margins much too high. Sure, some car manufacturers are still producing electric vehicles, but none of them are close to the margin that Tesla is. A lot of them are selling them at a loss just to be able to get some on the road. So the fact is, this is great news for Tesla. We also have what I've been talking about recently, which is the Inflation Reduction Act, and that's going to also help Tesla. So a lot of tailwinds for Tesla recently. Ramping up their facilities obviously is going to be a great time to be a Tesla investor over the coming years, because we're still on that growth curve, that exponential growth curve. They do have AI Day here coming soon as well, so be on the lookout for that. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I hope that was good for you so that you could get all the information you need from today's top news events. Let me know what you're most interested in and what you're looking for going forward. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.